She reached into the dead man's pocket to grab her bullet. That was all. Just a normal cleanup. But when she pulled her hand out, she wasn't holding a bullet. She was holding a small gold bracelet. She read the name carved inside, and her breathing stopped. It was her real name. Nena. She looked down at the body and realized the terrifying truth. The powerful man who raised her had just sent her to kill the only person trying to bring her home. Hello friends, welcome to our story. Before we start, please like this video, share, and subscribe. Also, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Is it United States, London, maybe Canada, Jamaica, South Africa, or anywhere? We want to know. And tell us what you learned at the end of this video. To truly understand the devastating power of the weapon, you must first deeply understand the target. Samuel and Adeze live in a huge, suffocatingly quiet house. Samuel is a billionaire. He owns massive banking conglomerates and fleets of cargo ships that cross the oceans. He commands boardrooms with a single whisper. But his vast, limitless money cannot buy a time machine. It cannot fix the agonizing void of the past. Every single year, on the second Tuesday of November, Samuel donates exactly $3 million to a children's charity in the name of a daughter he lost. And every single year, on that same gray morning, Adeze goes to a small, impeccably kept graveyard on the edge of the city. She always wears a black coat. She always brings a bouquet of pure white flowers. She stands before a small marble stone that bears only one word: stillborn. She does not weep. She looks right through the cold stone, her eyes fixed on a horizon no one else can see. She waits until she is safely locked inside the soundproof cabin of her armored car before she allows a single, silent tear to fall. They have one living daughter, Amara. She is 23 years old, full of life, light, and a fierce protective love for her grieving parents. She wears a delicate gold bracelet on her right wrist. She never takes it off. Not to sleep, not to swim. It is half of a set. Across the sprawling city, hidden behind high concrete walls and electrified wire, Victor Eze runs a rival empire. But Victor's business is built on shadows, leverage, and fear. He raised Zara, but he did not raise her with love. He raised her with a calculated regime of dark psychology. He gave her no warmth. As a child, he gave her only a single, scratchy, cheap wool blanket. He employed textbook intermittent reinforcement. He would ignore her for weeks, leaving her starving for his approval, only to praise her violently when she showed aggression or compliance. He gaslit her daily, rewriting her own memories until she doubted her own sanity. He told her she was a nobody, a rat pulled from the sewers, and that she owed him her every breath. "You are my best investment, Zara," he would tell her, standing over her as she trained until her knuckles bled. "Without me, you are nothing. You do not exist without my permission." And she, a child desperate for an anchor in a dark world, believed his lies. She internalized the trauma bond. She became his sharpest, deadliest, and most loyal tool. The destruction of Victor's empire begins not with a bullet, but with a dead doctor's unbearable guilt. Dr. Raymond held a terrible, rotting secret in the pit of his stomach for 23 long years. The stress ate away at his organs, finally killing him in a sterile hospital bed. His son, Obi, a sharp-minded investigative journalist who despised Samuel's corporate monopoly, decided to clean out his father's dusty, locked study. Obi wanted to find dirt to ruin Samuel's business. Instead, behind a false wall, Obi finds a heavy steel safe. Inside, wrapped in a plastic bag, he finds his father's handwritten, tear-stained confession letter. And resting on top of the paper, a gold baby bracelet. Through his vast network of surveillance, Victor Eze finds out Obi is digging. Victor cannot allow the past to be unearthed. He summons his weapon. He sends Zara to stop the journalist permanently. He walks into Obi's dimly lit office building. The power has been cut. You hear her heavy tactical boots first. Thud, thud, thud. Obi looks up from his desk, the glow of his laptop illuminating the sheer terror in his eyes. His hands freeze above the keyboard. He sees her dark, rain-slicked coat. He sees her dead, emotionless face. Obi starts to shake violently. He shakes like a man standing on a crumbling ledge above a 1,000-foot drop. He looks at her face and he sees the ghost of the woman his father wronged. He knows exactly who she really is. "He never told you the truth, did he?" Obi whispers, his voice cracking. "You don't even know whose face you're wearing." She shoots him, twice in the chest. A perfect clinical double tap. The noise is deafening in the small room. Obi slumps over the desk.
Zara's heart rate does not elevate. She steps forward to execute the cleanup protocol. She checks his pockets for the flash drive Victor demanded, but instead her hand brushes against metal. She pulls out the gold bracelet. She pulls out the wrinkled, aged letter. She reads her own true name. The room does not gasp. The room simply stops existing. The air turns to thick, suffocating lead. For the first time in 15 years, Zara's knees go completely weak. She has to physically grab the edge of the heavy wooden desk to stop from collapsing onto the bloody floor. She forces her eyes to focus on the doctor's frantic handwriting. "I could not stop him. He threatened my family. I gave Victor the living twin." Her burner phone buzzes in her pocket. The vibration feels like a massive electrical shock. It is Victor. He answers on the first ring. His voice is smooth, rich, and utterly devoid of humanity. That makes it so much worse. "Is the job done, my perfect girl?" She looks down at the dead man who tried to tell her the truth. She looks at the golden chain in her bloody palm. She realizes she is speaking to a monster. She said, flatly, "The job is done. Target is eliminated." She does not go back to the compound. She breaks protocol. She drives to a safe house on the outskirts of the city, a dark, damp basement room filled with humming servers. She boots up an encrypted terminal. She begins to hack into Victor's deepest, most heavily guarded secret servers. He taught her how to bypass firewalls, never realizing he was handing her the keys to her own cage. She breaches the first layer. She finds old, redacted hospital records from St. Jude's maternity ward. Samuel and Adeze are listed as the biological parents of twin girls. Amara is her twin sister. But the weapon's mind does not stop at the first answer. A new, darker question opens like a sinkhole beneath her. Why did Victor take her? Victor had always fed her a specific narrative. He told her he adopted her from the streets because his own infant child had tragically died. He used a fabricated story of mutual grief to hook her empathy, to control her through pity. It was a classic textbook manipulation tactic. She digs deeper, her fingers flying across the keyboard, bypassing security protocols. She finds the medical records for Victor's late wife. His wife was never pregnant. There are no ultrasound scans. There are no prenatal visits. It was a complete, absolute fiction designed purely to psychologically anchor Zara to him. Then, she breaches a hidden offshore financial ledger. She finds a wire transfer. It is dated the exact night she was born. Victor paid a man named Elias at the city morgue a sum of $50,000. Her jaw locks. A muscle in her cheek jumps uncontrollably. Victor did not lose a baby. He bought a dead baby. He used a deceased infant to force the terrified Dr. Raymond to make a trade in the nursery. She was not a replacement for a grieving father. She was stolen specifically to inflict maximum, unimaginable pain on Victor's corporate enemy. Victor Eze stole a living, breathing human baby simply to forge a weapon against her own biological father. "You are my best investment, Zara." The words echo in the dark basement, but they don't hold power anymore. The illusion is shattered. She realizes the scratchy old blanket was just a prop. The neglect was calculated. Every single aspect of her life was a manufactured tool for mind games. But Zara cannot wait. The rage makes her sloppy. She uses the server data to track down Elias, the old morgue worker. She finds an address for a rundown apartment complex in the slums. She drives there, breaking every speed limit. She climbs the rotting stairs. She pulls her sidearm. She kicks in the flimsy wooden door, ready to press the gun to the old man's head and force a filmed confession. But the apartment is completely empty. There is no furniture, just bare walls and dust. There is only a laptop sitting open on a folding chair in the center of the room. The screen is glowing brightly in the dark. A pre-recorded video starts playing. It is Victor. He is sitting in his opulent dining room, wearing a tailored suit, sipping black coffee from a porcelain cup. "You are very smart, Zara," the video projection says, smiling with his eyes. "I always knew you were my brightest pupil. I knew you would eventually read the doctor's letter. I knew you would breach the server. I knew you would track Elias down. I left the breadcrumbs for you. I led you exactly to where you are standing right now." Zara's eyes go wide. She looks at the corners of the ceiling. Hidden cameras. It is a psychological trap, a classic hoovering technique mixed with absolute dominance. Before the video even finishes, the windows shatter inward. Tear gas canisters roll across the wooden floor. Heavy, booted footsteps echo in the hallway. Armed mercenaries surround the building. She is no longer the hunter. She has been outplayed. She is the prey. Zara holds her breath against the burning gas. She dives through the shattered window, rolling across a rusted fire escape. Gunfire erupts, splintering the brickwork around her head. She is fast, faster than any of them, but there are simply too many. A high-caliber bullet grazes her left shoulder, tearing through her coat and searing her flesh. Shrapnel from a brick cuts a deep gash across her cheek. She drops into an alleyway, utilizing the shadows. She runs for miles through the pouring rain, losing the pursuit in the labyrinth of the city's industrial district. She finally collapses inside a rusted, abandoned train car sitting on overgrown tracks. She slides down the cold metal wall, sitting in total darkness. Her shoulder is bleeding heavily. Her face is covered in grime and blood. The adrenaline fades, leaving only agonizing pain and a crushing, suffocating isolation. She is completely alone in the universe. The man who raised her, who she called a father, wants her dead. The family she just discovered tonight doesn't even know she exists. Her burner phone lights up in her pocket. A text message from Victor. "You are a broken, defective tool. Tonight I will correct my mistake. I will erase the rest of your biological family. The twin dies first." This is it. This is her absolute breaking point. She is severely injured. She has no backup, no weapons stash, and no plan. The trauma bond pulls at her mind. A small, broken part of her child brain whispers that if she just surrenders, if she just runs away into the night, she might survive. If she fights him now, she will almost certainly die. The cost of intervention is her life. Zara sits in the dark for 10 full minutes. The rain pounds on the metal roof of the train car. She reaches into her pocket with her good hand. She pulls out the gold bracelet. She holds it tightly in her bloody, dirt-stained hand. She realizes the true cost of freedom. To save the family she has never met, she must permanently sacrifice the ghost she was trained to be.
Zara, the obedient weapon, the frightened child wrapped in a cheap blanket, the victim of Victor's endless gaslighting. Zara has to die right here, tonight, in this rusted train car. She rips the sleeve off her dark tactical coat. She ties it tightly around her bleeding shoulder, pulling it with her teeth until the bleeding stops. She forces herself to stand up. Her legs shake, but she locks her knees. The fear evaporates, replaced by a cold, pure, hyper-focused clarity. She is no longer fighting for Victor's approval. She is no longer fighting for survival. She is fighting for blood. She reaches into her pack and pulls out the scratchy wool blanket she had kept for 15 years, her only comfort item. She drops it onto the muddy floor of the train car. She steps on it as she walks out into the storm. She leaves the manipulation behind. She is no longer Zara, the weapon. She is Nena, and she is going home to protect her blood. On the wealthy side of the city, Samuel's massive estate is peaceful. Amara is sitting in the sprawling living room, reading a book by the light of a grand chandelier. Outside, Victor's strike team moves in total silence. They cut the primary and backup power lines.
The massive house plunges into absolute, suffocating darkness. Men dressed in black tactical gear, wearing night vision goggles, systematically break through the reinforced glass of the patio doors. Amara screams, dropping her book as the laser sights paint her chest. But Nena is already inside the perimeter. She drops from the second-story interior balcony like a hunting leopard. She moves completely silently, a shadow within shadows. She disarms the first mercenary, snapping his wrist and turning his own rifle against the squad. She sweeps the legs of the second man, neutralizing him with a brutal strike to the throat. She stands directly in front of Amara, placing her own bleeding body between the killers and her twin sister. Amara falls backward onto the carpet. She stares up at the fierce, terrifying girl who has her exact face, covered in rain, grease, and fresh blood. It is like looking into a dark, violent mirror. The massive oak front doors are pushed open. Victor Eze walks into the foyer. He is flanked by his elite guards. He is holding a heavy, silver-plated revolver. "You always were incredibly stubborn. You should have run into the shadows, little weapon," Victor says, his voice echoing in the grand hall. Nena does not flinch. She does not cower. She steps forward, into the beam of a mercenary's flashlight. "You spent 15 years building me to be a weapon," Nena says. "But the problem with forging weapons, Victor, is that they don't care who they hit when they finally swing." Victor's face twists in genuine rage. The mask of control slips. He raises his heavy revolver. Nena moves faster than humanly possible. She grabs the heavy metal safe box containing the doctor's confession, the very box she carried from the office, and hurls it straight at Victor's chest. Victor fires wildly. The bullet grazes Nena's ribs, knocking the breath from her lungs. She doesn't stop. She tackles him to the marble floor, the impact shattering the tiles. She pins him down, pressing her forearm into his throat. In the distance, the wail of a dozen police sirens cuts through the night air. Nena had sent the offshore bank files and the morgue records to the authorities before she left the train car. Nena looks down into the terrified, wide eyes of the man who stole her life. The man who thought he was a god. "Your banks are completely empty. The police have all your ledgers. Your empire is burned to ash. It is over." The police tactical units swarm the estate. They drag a screaming, ruined Victor Eze away in handcuffs. The flashing red and blue lights paint the walls of the mansion, but slowly, the noise begins to fade. Samuel and Adeze, who had been secured in the basement panic room, rush into the destroyed living room. They see Amara sitting safely on the sofa, wrapped in a shock blanket. And then, they turn. They see the lone girl standing in the corner, holding her bleeding side, staring at the floor. Samuel stops dead in his tracks. He looks at the young, battered woman. He sees the unmistakable shape of his wife's eyes. He sees the stubborn set of his own jaw. Nena does not know how to be a daughter. She only knows how to complete a mission. She steps forward and hands him the blood-stained, crumpled confession letter from the doctor. Samuel reads the frantic handwriting. His stoic, billionaire facade shatters completely. His face breaks open. He drops the paper to the floor. He falls heavily to his knees, burying his face in his hands. He makes a loud, agonizingly broken sound, a sob pulled from the very depths of his chest, releasing 23 years of phantom pain. Adeze walks forward. She ignores the blood. She ignores the dirt. She lifts a violently shaking hand. She reaches out, terrified that if she touches this girl, she will turn to smoke and vanish. She gently touches Nenena's bruised, cut cheek to see if she is truly real. Nenena, who has never known a mother's touch, hesitates. But slowly, imperceptibly, she leans into the warmth of Adeze's hand just a little bit. 2 weeks later, the storm has passed. They are standing in the massive, sunlit kitchen of the estate. It is just a normal, beautiful room. Steam rises from a large pot on the stove. Amara is stirring a pot of jollof rice. Nenena is standing next to her, holding a jar of mixed spices. Her arm and ribs are still tightly wrapped in medical bandages, but the dark circles under her eyes are beginning to fade. "You definitely need to add more pepper," Amara says, bumping her shoulder against Nenena's uninjured side. "The culinary rule strictly states 1 spoon is optimal for this volume," Nenena replies, her voice flat but a tiny smirk playing on her lips. "In this house, I am the rule," Amara laughs brightly. Nenena looks at her sister, unscrews the cap, and dumps the entire jar of pepper into the pot. Amara groans dramatically, throwing her hands up. Nenena laughs. It isn't a trained response. It is a real, warm, genuine laugh that fills the room. Adeze walks into the kitchen. She stops in the doorway, just watching her 2 living, breathing daughters bicker over a pot of rice. She walks slowly over to Nena. She reaches into the pocket of her cardigan. She pulls out the matching gold bracelet, the one that was lost to the dark for over 2 decades. Adeze does not say a single word. Words are too small for this moment. She gently takes Nena's scarred wrist. She carefully clips the delicate gold bracelet on, letting it rest right next to the white medical bandage. Nena looks down at the gold shining against her skin. She doesn't know how to say, "I love you," yet. That will take time. Instead, she looks into her mother's eyes and says the only words she can. "Thank you." This is a story about the things that people try to take from you. It is a story about a narcissistic man who treated human beings like disposable tools. He used dark psychology, isolation, and calculated gaslighting to control the mind of a child. But it is also a story about the profound cost of freedom and about a mother who stood faithfully at an empty grave for 23 years. Look closely at the gold bracelet. 2 separate parts, kept apart by greed and lies, forged in the absolute fire of betrayal. But in the end, it fought the darkness, and it found its way back home. Look, you are listening to this right now, and you are someone who has been used by a toxic person. This story is specifically for you. If someone has used manipulative tactics to make you feel incredibly small, to make you feel like you owe them your life, I want you to listen to me very carefully. You are not just a tool for someone else's ego. You are not the broken thing they say you are.
The scars you carry are not signs of weakness. They are absolute proof that you survived the war they started. The truth always, eventually, comes out into the light. You belong to no one but yourself. Lord, heal the hearts that have loved an empty space for so long, and give deep peace to those who paid the highest price to fight their way back home. Amen. Hope you enjoyed watching as much as I love creating. If this touched your heart, please kindly like, share, and subscribe. Comment where you're watching from. Thank you, and see you in the next video.